The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome, my friends, to the Monday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. This is the fastest hour in American media, and we are going to get started right away today because the abundance of audio material that we have is mind-blowing, and I want to get to as much of it as we possibly can. As you know, the big story over the weekend turned out to be something that none of us could have anticipated in Boulder, Colorado, a terrorist attack. And if you're watching the mainstream press, shame on you, number one, or not, I guess. People have a right to watch what they want to write. This is what you get your jollies on, watching the mainstream press, then you get what you get. On CNN, the disgraced former FBI man Andrew McCabe was quick after people were saying, look, this was terrorism, to jump up and wave his hand around, and try to knock the people in the administration that were declaring this an act of terrorism. It was terrorism. And it just on the basis of where it took place, how it took place, even as the facts were coming in, people understood this was a terrorist attack. The Run for Their Lives walk, which was aimed at bringing awareness to the hostages that are still held by Hamas in Gaza. That's what this happened, where this happened. The man, thankfully, even though there are two people that are still in very critical condition, and you cannot, and I cannot imagine the pain that they must be going through, thankfully, everyone is expected to live through this. But Soleiman, the man Mohammed Soleiman, told police that, allegedly, this what's being reported by ABC News, he wanted to kill all Zionist people. Wish that they were dead. Now, where in the world do you get this kind of hatred for people? You're in America. He's here illegally, and we'll cover that aspect of it in a bit. Father of five says he planned this attack for over a year, wanted to wait till his daughter graduated out of school. How many children killed in Zionism? That's what his message is. How many children have they killed? In this country, America has seen a rise in these pro-Palestinian protests that have gone unchecked. This is the central reason behind the upset at so many American universities for this and these uncontrolled attacks on people going about their lives in major cities like New York, Los Angeles, etc. People just going about their lives and interrupted by these protesters. In Chicago, people stopping traffic, people trying to incite violence, people pushing around law enforcement officers who are trying to get in the way of it. And at some point, whatever sympathies that people might have for some of these protest groups is turning into anger at these groups because of their tactics. At the scene, police recovered at least 14 unlit Molotov cocktails, wine glass carafe bottles, ball jars containing clear liquids, and red rags. He had a homemade flamethrower. This guy is being held on $10 million bond, entered the U.S. 2022 on a B-2 visa. He filed for asylum in September after he was here. His B-2 visa, a tourism visa, expired in 2023. He's been here illegally since. Now, some people say, oh, well, this has happened on Donald Trump's watch because apparently he was granted a work permit after his B-2 visa expired. But that expired on this past March 28th. So he's been here. He was let in by Biden. Another one of these unvetted entries into this country, of which there have been millions. Let's begin with the audio, shall we? Cut number one, FBI spokesman shortly after the terrorist attack.
I'm able to confirm there are 6 victims, ages 67 to 88. All of them have been transported to local hospitals. This attack happened at a regularly scheduled weekly peaceful event. Witnesses are reporting that the subject used a makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. The suspect was heard to yell, "Free Palestine," during the attack. The subject has been identified as Mohammed Sabri Solomon, and he's 45 years old. The FBI is processing the crime scene in the subject vehicle and interviewing key witnesses. We're assisting Boulder police in providing technical, analytic, and additional forensic resources.
Okay, we have that information. That's everything that we've reported. I want to leave room for some other things, so we'll skip out of that one right now and turn to Jamie Raskin. Folks, what we had was an attack using Molotov cocktails, homemade Molotov cocktails, and an improvised flamethrower. Jamie Raskin's response to that is to start talking about what? Guns. Cut 5, Jamie Raskin, Representative Jamie Raskin.
We've got to take whatever precautions and security measures we need to make sure that people can do that. That's essential. But there's been a lot of violence in our society recently, as we saw in Washington. Now we're seeing in Colorado, but we've seen it across the country. We are still in the midst of a gun violence epidemic. So we need to be acting with due concern for human life. This is why, of course, we have been fighting for a universal violent criminal background check. We are for a ban on military-style assault weapons in the country.
How about military-style Molotov cocktails?
Our lax gun laws are a danger to everybody in America, and that's something that we can act with some legislative determination to turn around. But people have got to lead their lives.
Enough of him just running his mouth. Guy just lit up people, literally set them on fire with improvised homemade weaponry, and this guy goes on TV and starts whining about gun control. Now, the next cut, ladies and gentlemen, I had to put in order to make sure that Princess Diana was happy. Her favorite governor, and she's huge fan of him. And so every time I see Governor DeSantis mentioned, I have to just pay attention to it and see what he's saying because if I don't, I feared Princess Diana's wrath. And so Ron DeSantis also spoke about this event that happened in Colorado. Here is Governor DeSantis.
But why are we letting people like this guy into the country from Colorado? He should have never been here to begin with, and he sure as hell should have been sent home when this visa expired. And this is the wages of having basically an open border for 4 years under the previous administration. But this whole thing and you saw it starting on October 7th, you saw what's happened at our universities, you've seen attacks against Jews, you saw the 2 Israelis in D.C., you see this Colorado. This is really sick, but we've got to take this seriously, and you shouldn't be allowing this having policies that allow this to foment. I do think that there's a lot that goes on, quite frankly, in some of the lies that get spread in the media that probably get some of these guys wound up. But it's really, now we've done a lot in Florida over the years. This is nothing new for us to be responding. When October 7th happened, we were rescuing Americans out of Israel. We did that before Biden even did it, and he was the president of the United States. So we have done security for Jewish day schools. After October 7th, we sent highway patrol and other assets. So I don't know what we've received. I haven't personally. That doesn't mean that one of our agencies hasn't, but we'll continue to respond the way that we've always responded. This type of stuff will not fly.
Thank you,
Florida,
Governor DeSantis. We appreciate it. Now, the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt also spoke about this incident. This is Caroline Leavitt, ladies and gentlemen.
The president just put out a very strong statement condemning this attack. This terrorist came into our country under the previous administration. Joe Biden's administration foolishly gave him a tourist visa and that allowed him to unlawfully remain in our country. This individual should have been deported. Instead, he was welcomed here. And now, 3 years later, after coming to this country under Joe Biden's administration, he is lighting Jewish people on fire who were simply trying to peacefully pay respect to the hostages in Israel. This absolutely is an act of targeted terrorism. The FBI and the Department of Justice are investigating it as such, and the president is going to ensure that this individual is held to the fullest extent of the law. And not just this individual, but any individual, especially illegal criminals who engage in acts of terrorism, will be held accountable under this president.
Good. And that's what needs to happen, and fullest extent of the law should mean that. For this, I don't know. This guy's here illegally. I don't know. Maybe he should be in an American jail for the rest of his life. Maybe. I'm James Golden, Snerdley here.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Happy Pride Month. In my Target that used to have the Pride section, it's now all USA. Yay. It's an American summer. Except for tourism, because tourism's down because no one wants to come here. USA, woo! And honestly, my dad served in the military, and I'd love to be really proud of this nation, but it's hard to be proud of it under Donald Trump. But hey, while you're here, pick up a USA bikini. Why not? Yeah, Target's really taken this anti-DEI thing to another level.
James Golden, Snerdley with you here. All right, we have covered as much as we can with the information that we have. Of course, there will be a lot more in coming days, this terrorist attack, and we hope all is going well. There are a lot of things I want to cover that also happened over the weekend. Folks, Princess Diana sent me the most beautiful portrait of Ron DeSantis. Wow, I'll tell you, she's real. Okay, Tim Walz, ladies and gentlemen, is losing his mind. Or maybe he's just brilliant and I don't see it. And to me, it sounds like he's losing his mind. This is Tim Walz. Out this week, campaign cut number 6, Carlos. Mr. Walz.
We've got to show the guts that we're willing to. I feel like there's folks that aren't willing to say the things necessary because they might be worried they might not get reelected if they say that. I'm not going to say that, and I don't think any of us can. I'm getting called out on this because I called Donald Trump a wannabe dictator. It's because he is. It's because he is. Oh, the governor's being mean, and the governor's speaking out on that. Well, maybe it's time for us to be a little meaner. Maybe it's time for us to be a little more fierce. Because we have to ferociously push back on this. And again, I'll speak to my teacher colleagues in here. The thing that bothers a teacher more than anything is to watch a bully, to watch this bully, and to stop it. And when it's a child, you talk to them and you tell them why bullying's wrong. But when it's adult like Donald Trump, you bully the out of him back. You push back. You make sure they know it's not there. Because at heart, this is a weak, cruel man that takes it out and punches down on people. What they don't want to do is stand toe-to-toe and punch back with someone who's calling them out for what they do, who's being there.
So the Democrats need to be meaner. I want to address that when we get back, because there is no way, in my view, the Democrats could be any meaner than they already are. But we'll deal with that when we get back. Please, whatever you do, don't go away. Stay right here.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
If y'all got so much money and y'all upset about us being upset about losing government assistance, go find our absent-ass baby fathers, okay? Some of us didn't ask to have absent baby fathers.
Carlos, play that again. Keep the music. Just play that again.
If y'all got so much money and y'all upset about us being upset about losing government assistance, go find our absent-ass baby fathers, okay? Some of us didn't ask to have absent baby fathers.
Okay. All right, so before the break, we played Tim Walz suggesting it's time for Democrats to be mean and cruel, meaner. It's we need to be cruel. We need to be mean. Maybe we need to be a little meaner. And when I heard that, I said, the first thing that came to my mind, how mean could these people possibly get? How much more meaner could Democrats get as a party? This is a party that has consigned millions of Americans to a life of poverty, misery, and despair due to their policies. Due to policies that, for instance, retain the right to keep millions of children uneducated to appease teachers' unions and make sure that their teachers' unions are employed so that those teachers' unions can make sure that Democrats are well-funded for elections. What has happened? There are failing schools in every major blue city across this nation, and no one cares because mostly it's black. They don't care because mostly it's black and Hispanic kids that attend. Most of the white kids are able to get out because they've left the inner city. And why have they left the inner city in large numbers? Because the inner cities are unsafe. Thank you to Democrats who've also been mean. They don't believe in punishing criminals. In fact, when criminals are locked up, they whine about mass incarceration and demand that the very criminals that poison society be unleashed on the people that can least defend themselves. And they attack the police officers who try to maintain law and order in communities. How much meaner can they be? This is the party that believes that children should be sexualized almost as soon as they're born. If you listen to some of the whack-os in their party, the process of sexualization begins when kids are kids and decides that they're not the gender that God assigned them, that they should be another gender. So it's okay to mutilate children. How much meaner can they be? This is the party that is responsible for illegal immigration. I asked last week, I said, I feel empathy when you hear and you see some of these cases that are going on where people are being now forced to leave a country that they should have never been allowed to enter because they were breaking the rules doing so. Democrats supported this every step of the way. These people are undergoing this suffering because of Democrat policies. How much meaner can Democrats be? This is a party that attacks people because they actually try to live righteous lives. They make fun of them. They make fun of people that actually devote their lives or try to as failed human beings, becoming better human beings by worshiping a god. And by trying to make their life better by acknowledging that we are not the sum total of everything in the universe. In fact, we're a very small part of it, and we should be living our life with an eye toward becoming more God-realized than human-realized. And yet, what do? They mock them at every single term. They have tried to drive people that are religious people out of the public square. How much meaner can Democrats be? What is it going to take for Democrats to stop talking about compassion and actually show compassion for the American people, for the American taxpayers whose pocketbooks they loot on a regularly reoccurring basis? I'll give you an example of a looting that tried to take place this week while everybody was sleeping. Cut 18, Carlos. This is what was happening over the weekend in the state of Illinois.
Happy Pride Month. In my Target that used to have the Pride section,
That's
it's now
one.
all USA.
I'm sorry, wrong one. 17, Carlos.
You guys heard the latest? Yeah. The Dems up at the Capitol in Illinois, they're working this weekend, and they're doing their best to pass a $1.50 tax on every single thing that you have delivered to your home. A box from Amazon, a prescription, DoorDash, Grubhub, Papa John's, whatever it is, a $1.50 tax will be on each one of those items that is delivered. Yeah, they're doing this on the weekend, kind of sneaky, behind our back. Check it out. Look it up.
Well, I took her word for it. I looked it up, and this woman was absolutely right. Over the weekend, the Democrats in Illinois were meeting to try to put in place a tax on every resident of Illinois for almost everything that is delivered to you. Every time you get a delivery, they want to put their grubby, stinky, greedy, feckless hand out and grab some of your money. Why? To support public transportation. And why do they have to support public transportation? Because it's failing, like everything else in these blue cities. You have these crime-ridden mass transit systems that have grown so expensive. You have payrolls that have grown so expensive because Democrats keep handing money out like it's water to their union buddies so their union buddies can keep voting for them. And then what do they come back and do? They come back and try to rape the taxpayer over and over again to pay to keep them in power, because that's all this is ever about. How can Democrats keep their hand in your pocket and keep you in power? How much meaner can these people be? How much meaner can they be? With public transit agencies in Chicagoland facing a fiscal cliff, potential thousands of union employees maybe having to be laid off, the Senate passed a bill, but the House on Sunday, after it heard from people, I guess, said this was too controversial, so they did not pass the measure. The measure would put statewide taxes on deliveries and even electric vehicles that were being charged, as well as putting taxes on ride sharing. Also, they could raise money to pay off the unions and keep the union members happy in Chicago's mass transit and other mass transit areas in the state. But primarily, this is going to Chicago and other large Democrat blue cities. The most controversial tax of all the time, they were going to tax Illinois residents up the wazoo again. But the most controversial tax increase was a $1.50 fee added to any home delivery order placed online. They do it so if you were ordering something online, you couldn't escape their greasy, grubby, measly, feckless hand reaching in to grab some of your money. They would exempt in this. If you had only groceries and medication, they thought maybe, okay, we'll exempt it. But anything else you wanted to buy, every time you had a package delivery, they want a cut of it. For doing what? For doing absolutely not a damn thing. Just for saying that they want more of your money like they always do. How much meaner can Democrats be? Have an article here. Consumers are financing their groceries now. What does it say about the economy? They're using these services like Klarna and some of these other Klarna that let you break up your deliveries, interest-free if you pay it all back on time, into 3 or 4 payments.
We talked about that, I think, like a month ago, about DoorDash doing installments for, an order or something. Well,
Carlos, dig this. This article, this is in the New York Times today, says that right now a quarter of consumers are now using financing for stuff like this, for their groceries, for other stuff, because, again, and if you pay it before, you can split it up. You can split up the payments. Some experts are worried, as they should be. Okay, we have some other audio we got to clear before we get out of here because there are other things, too. I want to, let's very quickly visit F. Chuck Todd. That is cut number 9. F. Chuck Todd and Mr. Todd.
He did it look, I dealt with it in the first term with him and other reporters. There was direct correlation, right? He'd call your name out. You'd get, weird phone calls. You'd get weird death threats. I got my tires slashed in front of my house. You're just one of those. Honestly, I've had conversations with him. I said, when you name check people who are not in the public square, who do not have the protection, I said, you bring a level of, and he goes, oh, isn't it good? Yeah, he views it as, oh, it's good publicity. Like and I don't think he's doing it to create a security problem for these people.
Okay, so here's F. Chuck Todd blaming Donald Trump for his tires being slashed because there are, people out there. You know what? These reporters call out people by name. They destroy lives on a regular basis. But if you name check them, all of a sudden, oh, you're terrible. These people destroy people's lives for a living. And they never apologize when they're wrong to the degree that they can correct the problems. They have demonized Republicans and called them all kind of evil since time began. And here we are supposed to feel sorry for old F. Chuck Todd. Sorry, F. Chuck Todd. I don't want violence to happen to anybody. I don't want people, vandalism, none of it. I think it's disgraceful. I think people that do it ought to pay a very steep legal price. But please, F. Chuck Todd, after all the damage that those of you in the mainstream press have inflicted willfully on conservatives and on others who you demonize on a regular basis, please do not step out looking for sympathy from us. Folks, the immigration stories over the weekend. We had one reporter, this is cut 11, being asked again, as they have been making a big deal, why are the ICE agents? Why are your ICE agents? Why are these people wearing masks? Why are they wearing masks? Well, ICE Director Todd Lyons had stepped away from the podium. He was going when someone asked that question, and he immediately made a beeline right back to the podium in the microphone to answer it and say this.
Why do they wear masks? I'm going to answer the mask question. So, no, not the mask, the mask. So, a lot of agencies were invited to come out 2 weeks ago in Los Angeles where we ran an operation where ICE officers were doxxed. So let's just say that again. People are out there taking photos of the names, their faces, and posting them online with death threats to their family and themselves. So I'm sorry if people are offended by them wearing masks, but I'm not going to let my officers and agents go out there and put their lives on the line and their family on the line because people don't like what immigration enforcement is. They are wearing those masks because we ran an operation with the Secret Service where we arrested someone that was going online, taking their photos, posting their families, their kids' Instagram, their kids' Facebooks, and targeting them. So let me ask, is that the issue here, that we're just upset about the masks? Or is anyone upset with the fact that ICE officers' families were labeled terrorists?
Yeah, and they're being labeled terrorists because of some of these reports, news reports. I'm trying to see if we have time to squeeze one more in here, and we'll wait till we get back to be on the safe side. James Golden, Snerdley, it is the fastest hour in American media. James Golden, Snerdley with you. Don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Since the election is over, if you voted for Trump, that does not mean we can't be friends. We're both adults. We can be cordial and mature in your f***ing dreams.
I hope you despair. I hope the devil takes your f***ing soul. Yeah.
Carl snuck that in there. Oh, that's right. I keep it. You know what? I want to hear, let's go very quickly to cut 14. Folks, you want to know why these people are so upset? I have a story here about a Democrat councilwoman in Massachusetts. She's a councilwoman blocking an ICE agent. The ICE agents were out trying to arrest a migrant who beat up her pregnant daughter. And this councilwoman gets in the way to try to stop it. No charges on there at all. 6 illegal immigrants charged in South Carolina mom's murder. Detail the crime scene in eerie measures. They're unrepentant. They shielded a killer. Liberal activists try to prevent ICE Boston from apprehending a murder suspect. But you want to know why these ICE agents have to wear masks? Because of the kind of reporting that's happening on mainstream media outlets like this.
Six was there as person after person left Miami's immigration court in tears Thursday. Yanet Correa could not hold back her pain. She screams injustice after her husband was placed on an expedited deportation order after showing up to his immigration check-in in Miami. The detentions are not only creating panic and fear, but Correa's immigration attorney tells NBC6 it's also creating confusion.
When a person enters the U.S. at the border, they decide what law to process you under, and now here in court, they're deciding to process you under a different law.
Immigration court attorney Antonio Ramos tells us this is now the new normal.
What I have been seeing is out of the few people, most of them, they have previous crimes, and sometimes not even have applied in front of the judge with any application, just an open case. And we have seen just a couple of cases, they have no crime, but the issue was they never filed an application before the judge.
How mean can Democrats be? They invite people here who break the law knowing sooner or later there are going to be consequences. They've been lying to the Dreamers for almost 20 years, saying they were going to do something for them. They've done nothing. How much meaner can Democrats get? Tim Walz is demanding that the Democrat Party step up and be mean. How much meaner can they get? Everything that this party has touched, every single thing that these people put their hands into, they bring with them misery after misery. How much meaner can they get? We gotta go. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, your families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude for your being here, allowing me to be with you. God willing, back tomorrow for Boats and Oldies Rush Hour. Until then, my friends, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?